Good morning, dear exporters. Good evening to Mr. Ram, Sareen and Ms. Savannah. This seminar on cutting edge technology is actually I was talking to Mr. Ram Sareen about 10 days back. I said we had to do something about this cutting edge technology because I know Ram Sareen more than 25 years or 3 decades, I can say. He's the one person who never talks business, but he always talks about the welfare of the exporters and the producers. So personally, I appreciate him always. But today is the first time that AEPC is joining hand with him in a webinar. Of course, he has done some workshop with the AEPC earlier, but as a webinar, he's joining today. His experience is more than 50 years. And this Tukatalks is the well-known in the apparel market or a textile, I can say, all over the world. Even when you talk to the buyers about Ram Sareen or Tukatalks, everybody knows him. And he is the person who introduced any in a digital pattern making. I can boldly say Ram Sareen is the first person, or Tukatalks is the first company to introduce this digital pattern making. So we are having Ram Sareen with us, and we have Savannah Crawford. She is the chief collaborator of Tukatalks. She is specializing in correcting creative system for virtual product development and collaboration. She builds workflows between fashion brands, retailers, and vendors, utilizing Tuka 3D, Tuka Cloud, Tuka 3D Designer Edition, and other creative tools. Savannah received a Bachelor of Science in Apparel Merchandising and Management with a concentration in apparel production and emphasis in fashion design. So we are really fortunate to have you, Savannah. I welcome you all, both of you here. And I just want to tell the exporters, it's not a promotional activities by Tukatalks. It is just an education to our people or our exporters how to control the fabric. That is up to 10%, he says, we can reduce the fabric consumption, and also 60% staff in cutting edge technology. And also, one person can lay 4,000 to 6,000 yards per day. So that all they're going to talk about it. Again, Ram Sareen was talking to me. It's not an investment. It is a change of attitude by the manufacturers. So the change of attitude will give so much. It's not that investment is talking about. So we should be beneficial for this with this webinar. So let us start. I request Ram Sareen, our good friend of our industry, to take over the stage. Mr. Ram Sareen.
Namaskar. Good morning to everybody in Asia. Like we always say, it's all about attitude. People who want to learn, they will go extra mile to learn. And those who know everything are the most scariest people. You know, I was born in India, but I've been out of India for almost 45, 46 years now. So whenever I go and speak to an Indian, although I am Indian, I look Indian, but I really don't have that close ties, day-to-day interaction with Indians. Do me a favor, all of you, please consciously follow this one. When you speak to another person in India and you try to say something, the first thing the Indian person will say, I know. Stop that. Because as a foreigner, they don't know that this is just a metaphor. You really don't know. But they shut up. I shut up because you know everything. What am I going to tell you? Because of you say, I know. Attitude of learning is a must. And I want to share a couple of experiences with you. It's sometimes we know it, but sometimes it's a rude awakening that people have to understand. Maybe I'm doing this. Maybe this is the reason why some people go away from me, or they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to tell me. I deal with different people. So I'm going to deal only about Asia, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. And there are all four neighboring countries, almost similar culture, but what is the difference? So here is one thing that I want you to share. We were in an exhibition in one of the Asian countries, and most of us, when we go to the exhibition, all of us want to know what is new technology. But when I'm dealing with people from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, they come in to test you first rather than learn. They know it all. So let's start with Savannah with that video if you can. All right. So this person comes in, he says, I have a knit garment and this is torquing. Can your cutter cut my torque garment? Okay. So we took that, we cut the way he was cutting, and then we changed that to follow the torque so that we can cut on an angle. We cut that.
So this is, you can see that running on an angle,
Exactly.
and this one is running straight,
Straight.
right? Now tell me, what do you think?
It's perfectly done. It is very perfectly done, which I was not expecting.
Okay.
It's done with the right thing, with the right technology. I do accept.
It's a great example of a person wasting 2.5 hours of my time in a trade show where I spend a lot of money to exhibit my technology. I'm going to take you to one more little incident. Okay, go ahead. Next video, please. Do you see here? What do you see here?
In the entire cutting room. 3 on cutters, 3 on spreaders in the back. And that's it. One service person. They all service their own. This is a S91. They had 3 of them. They replaced 2 with our cutter. What is the difference when you're cutting the mirror piece? Have you been able to find any deviation? Louder, I can't hear you. What about the accuracy from top to bottom? Just okay?
Good.
Good or very good? Look at the small pieces. The geometry of the pieces to capture that and the height. And this is fusible material. Do you see any burnt marks anywhere?
So what do you see here? This person traveled all the way from Pakistan. And you know what? I'm not going to talk about India, Pakistan. We are all the same. Our culture is the same. We think the same way, okay? So we are no different in behaviors also. Travels all the way from their country to Italy to see an engineered cutting room where there are only 7 people working on 3 spreaders, 3 cutters, cutting all day long in 7 hours, non-stop, and doing an amazing job. Rather than learning why and how are they doing and how can I take this culture and put it in mine, he spent all his time in examining the cut quality. Oh, come on. You're cutting manually. You're spreading manually. You don't know shit about the quality or the procedure. And you are concerned if their quality is better than your quality. That is where you stopped learning and you started showing off. I'm going to take you one more time, another one. Okay, this is important for you to understand because you need to see. Go ahead, the next video, please. Here is a cutting room in Pakistan that I set up, and I took people from Sri Lanka here. I took people to show this knit cutting room which used to have over 100 people to cut number 70,000 units.
There is no
Savannah, I'll let the volume go in there. But I want to explain, if you can cut the volume out. I took people to show them how, doesn't matter cheap labor or not, an engineered cutting room works. In the entire cutting room, to cut 70,000 units a day, there are 14 people. There used to be 120 people. They don't relax the fabric. They don't ticket it. They don't panel inspection. They do everything by digital. So I have taken several people there from Vietnam, from India, from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. The difference is the guy who comes from India. I took him to the sewing room too. Savannah, can you show the sewing room video for a second? Before you go there, I want to show what's going on here, okay? This is the guy. We put a standard operating procedure where when the cut finishes the table and the last bite is on the cutter must start moving to the next table while it is cutting, so that the setup time for the next spread is minimized. I am making money on these expensive machines only when the machine is cutting, not while I'm setting it up, not while I'm moving. When the machine is not cutting, it is a liability. Therefore, the SOPs have to be set up. The training has to be done in such a way that they get the maximum use of these machines. All right, so we show this to a lot of people. And I did have a very large company from India. They saw the cutting room, and I took them to sewing room also. Savannah, do you have a sewing room video for a second? And this is the largest Levi's supplier. They have 1,400 sewing machine operators, everybody working like this. And an amazing, amazing factory, the total vertical, they even make their own thread. So when it comes to efficiency, I will have a small little 2-minute video from the owner explaining his experience, okay? This is the third day of the system. And the person who comes from India, when I went and visited that company, the owner brought the CEO who had gone to see this company. Can you imagine that guy had a long list of things, what these people were doing wrong? He had nothing nice to say about what they were doing right. And I do have the cutting room videos of that company. And if you see that, they should be so bloody ashamed. This is the change that I want you guys to start thinking. First, recognize that you have a problem and you need to fix it. Let's go one more video, then I get on to the next subject, okay? Here is a cutting room in Los Angeles. They are a full package denim company. The CEO of a very large company in Sri Lanka asked to go and visit that company to see their cutting room. He comes in, and I was in Asia at that time, and he sees this factory. And later I found out that he spent 5.5 hours. They take away your phone and cameras. They don't allow you to take the pictures or videos. A month later, he calls me again. He said, I need to take 2 of my people to show that factory. I said, why? He said, I'll tell you the truth. I saw the cutting room in 10 minutes. I saw what they were doing. I got it. But the way they were storing the fabric, the way they were distributing, the way they were inspecting, he saw the entire operation. He took notes. He made a little bit of sketches of trying to recreate what he's watching, what he's learning from there. And he goes back to Sri Lanka to explain to them, this is what I saw. And those people won't believe it. So he flew in two of his vice presidents and a plant manager to come to LA to go and spend another 8 hours. That is commitment, make a change. And I'll show you one extra video on this one. Show the next one, please. This is Sri Lanka, their factory. When they came back from Pakistan, without even getting the equipment delivered, they implemented and they reported 27% increase in productivity by just changing their workflow and the procedures before the equipment came in. So nothing to do with equipment, with whatever they were doing. Now the interesting part is, if you see it, this guy is moving the cutter when it's cutting. Nobody taught him. The plant manager saw it when we showed him. When he came back, his machine came in, he implemented that. That is the fundamental difference between Sri Lankans and Bangladesh, India, Pakistanis. Let's stop here for a minute, okay? Thank you, Savannah. Go back to the agenda, please. What do we want to talk about? In the cutting rooms, which is where the money is, trust me, I want to talk about how to do the engineering of the cutting room. We want to define our objectives in the cutting room. How should we customize the standard operating procedures? It has to be in a versatile way because we cut all kinds of products, we use all kinds of fabric, and we have all kinds of challenges. This is why the variations are required, but we are in a cut and sew business. What are the factors for planning in the cutting room? And what are the ways to execute those plans? What is it that we should not be doing? One is panel inspection, panel wash. The panel inspection after it's cut. The relaxation of fabric, the way we do it in Asia. And of course, multiple people trying to spread. That needs to go away. Okay? How many of you watched my first video of showing the spreading? Some of you saw the trolleys, right? The push trolley. Those who did not, please go back to my Tukatalks or go to my post on LinkedIn where the link is there. But there is a video which shows what is it that you need to do to make sure that you can get, for a very little investment, to buy a small little trolley where one person can actually spread 5,000 to 6,000 yards per day. Okay? How do we eliminate the fabric inspections? It's so-called inspect 10% of the fabric. We have standard operating procedures, but we really don't know why we continue to do that and what is the benefit that we are getting. But somebody somewhere said one time we must do this, and we started doing it. And the biggest culprits on setting up these procedures are these QCs who are employed by the sourcing companies, brands, and retailers. Just because they are sitting here as a brand and retailer and they give us the work as a vendor does not mean that they are qualified to tell us how we should be working. Just remember, it may be a UK brand or a USA brand, but the QC is still the Indian, the Bangladeshi, the Pakistani, the Sri Lankan. And they did not go to UK or USA to get the training. They got the training from within that companies or within that country. But now I have authority to tell you, you need to relax. You need to pull the fabric out. But I never told you why and how should you have the best practice to get the most productivity. These are the kind of things you need to stand up. Sri Lankans did. Most of the sourcing companies are out of there. Because they went back, they said, at the end of the day, if there is a problem with my product, you're not going to go back to the sourcing company or the brand. You are going to send me the note. Therefore, I'm responsible for my quality, my production, and so on. So let me handle it my way. It is the right way of doing it. I give you your product at a perfect price, at the right time, and with the right quality for you paid. Revising the material handling processes. How do we receive the fabric and how do we allocate? Well, I want all of you to make the following notes. Number one, today, I want all of you to go into your stock room and look at the dead inventory. The stock that you bought extra or your fabric buyer made you buy extra. Even when you wasted 10% fabric, you still have leftover fabric. That was not a very wise thing. That money could have been sitting in your pocket and paying a lot of bills or improving your process. But you have people buying by covering their ass because they don't want to be short. We need to revise that. We need to buy what we need and we need to use what we bought, all of it. That is called MRP, Materials Requirement Planning. And that's where the money is. We have a lot of questions coming up. Well, I have shading problem. I have a problem with different widths coming in. How do we handle it? My objective is I want to give the customer they want. They want so many greens, so many yellow, so many blue, so many purple, and so on. They have given me the scales and so on. I have this way to hold my ear, this way to hold my ear, this way to hold my ear. I have to hold my ear. I have to give them those garments. What we do here is something different. We will cut the white so we can have maximum height, maximum width, maximum utilization, and make the garments, sew the garments by adding in whatever allowances I needed in my patterns for the shrinkage or dye house adjustment. Black may be shrinking more than the light yellow. I do those testings on the garment dye, and I dye the garments and send the garments out. Perfect way of doing it, nothing wrong. Think about it, and I will talk about that for a minute. And how do we handle the problems the garment finishing? Somebody has in the knit with very tight salvage, too much glue, not enough glue, curling edges. All that stuff is real. It's not only for India or Pakistan or Bangladesh that we chose that Indians all this bad fabric for. Everywhere, globally, we have the same problem. How do we handle that? And how apparel is made anywhere. We've got to think anywhere is the only place. If I am prepared, can you tell me if I gave you the challenge to start a factory in Los Angeles and compete with them at $21 or $25 an hour an operator and have a cutting room and sewing room? Can you do it? No. Right? If that is correct, then I have a surprise for you. How many of you have heard of American Apparel? Lots of you, right? The guy, Dov Charney, is a legend. When everybody was bitching about China exporting garments, doing this, he is sitting in Los Angeles, was exporting his garments to China. He got an award. $170 million worth of t-shirts he shipped to China, made in America. So don't tell me things can't be done. I have a little clip because he called me up after he saw my video on fabric spreading. Go ahead.
My mission is to produce garments in such a way that I'm able to pay higher wages than my competition and outpace them on the profitability basis.
As long as I've known you, you have been a very strong believer of automation. Wherever you could automate, whatever you could automate, you've done that. Why?
A webinar of some manufacturing that was going on offshore where the workers were hand spreading. They were relaxing a stretch fabric by shaking it out and hand spreading. There's a lot of wild stuff that's extremely inefficient that goes on when you're paying workers 10 cents, 30 cents, 70 cents an hour. I remember going to Egypt at one point, and they were hand rolling the fabric onto the ground and cutting it on the ground. There's a need, once they removed slavery in the United States, they had to automate cotton picking. It got so well automated that the United States is now the most efficient producer of cotton, okay? More so than India, where they often do it by hand or they don't have all the technology. Because by operating within a richer country, you're forced to automate. Now, so I'm like, it's almost laughable that sometimes our costs are cheaper here in the United States than they are, let's say, offshore, because they haven't figured out how to be efficient.
To get it? You haven't figured out how to be efficient. This stigma that you have, the labor is cheap, is biting you in your back right now. And you don't know what to do with those people. And it's been 25 years I've been yelling and screaming. Why do you have 2.8 people for every one sewing machine in the sewing room? Why do you have 50 people in the cutting tables? Can you show some of the pictures that I've been taking, Savannah? This is what he goes out and sees that. Go ahead, run that. I ran some videos on my last webinar on spreading. Okay? This is how we are spreading. We're ballooning. We're doing panel inspection or panel wash and then panel spreading. 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards cutting and then putting it on there on top of that using 10 to 12% extra fabric. We are wasting this salvage, the amount of wastage that you have because the fabric is wider and the market is narrow. Why? That is money you're throwing away, and the owners have no idea. And the managers don't show them and don't tell them. The next video, please. The next pictures that you have, okay? How do you like that? 12 people sitting on a table. Does that remind you of your cutting room? Does anybody remember anything like this for the stripe matching and pins? I will go bankrupt if I had to do it this way. And it's really, if you guys don't believe in God, you better start believing in God, because God is the only one who's taking care of all of you. You yourself are not. In the factories, God is taking care of you guys. Even those atheists start believing when you start believing this nonsense. On one table, 15, 18, 20 people having a party. It's a kitty party going on. Their meter is running on. Your meter is running, the wages. Who is going to pay for that? You expect your customers to pay for that? It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. You better get efficient. But first thing is to identify your problems. These are your problems. I don't speak to the person for whatever reason, but there is a gentleman who is supposed to be one of the largest exporters. In 1998, I set up a state-of-the-art cutting room where he was doing plaids and he was doing spreading, where 14 people were spreading, were replaced by a 20-year-old girl who could sit down and do that machine. I put 8 spreaders, 4 cutters in Delhi and Bangalore. Sadly, he would not allow the fellow Indians to come and see it. That is the shameful thing, because you're not thinking India, you're thinking me. Me. Try that. Sakthivel will vouch for that. If an owner came in Tirupur and he's busy, he's going to make sure the owner never leaves Tirupur. Sri Lanka is that. They will give their competition, the order, because they don't want order to go out of the country. And here we are not even trying to teach each other. We are victims of what we call, that's the way we do it. Every time I am in a factory, I'm asking a person, hey, why are you doing that? We've always done it like that. That answer, please make sure you walk with a placard in the front. Please don't say that's the way we've always done it. Because when we did that, there were some circumstances. Here is an example in a factory I walked in Cambodia. These are the products that they are making.
Look at fabrics like this. Like this. There is no shading. There is no shading. There's no shading on this. Wools like this. No shading. So stop doing all that. Expensive fabrics.
Yet, they are doing what you're doing on a $2 garment or a $1.50 garment. Every yard, every roll, you're taking a shade card, swatches. You're making that whole thing. You're doing for every fabric, regardless of whether you're paying $6 a yard or $4 a yard or $1.50 a yard, doesn't make a difference. Making a whole blanket, create the shade, making for folders for each one of these shipments, holding this fabric 5 to 7 days before it can see the cutting room, and then you're wondering why you're late. Yes, you are going to do the fabric inspection, but have you ever seen what comes out of that fabric inspection? You almost always use all the fabric. All you're doing is finding out if there are flaws in that. And if there are, you are going to inform the mill. And the mill is going to tell you, keep these flaws on the side, and I'm going to give you credit. Is that right or wrong, Shakti? If that is the case, why can't I inspect that while I'm spreading? I take that out, the flaw, then I go back to the mill, and mill always gives me that. Okay. Here is Savannah. I don't think you put that video that I took for timing and tearing. I forgot about that. Okay. Anyway, I will put that video on YouTube for the skeptics, for the people who don't believe it. I will put that video where I timed it for the NCR people who are doing georgettes and chiffons where they have to tear it. Same trolley is being used to lay the fabric. They tear it and they push it. It's face up only. And the guy is doing 4,800 yards per day all alone. All alone. These guys are doing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 yards per day. If they are doing face-to-face, there's maximum productivity. And by the way, any of these cutting rooms you see, all of them have one person, one machine, one person, one machine. You are not going to go into automatic spreading. No, I don't think that you are ready. You would crash. If I gave you a Ferrari and all you know is how to ride a bicycle, and that too, sometimes you go this way and sometimes you go that way, and you don't even know how to do the lane following and how to ride the bike where you ride safely, you're going to crash that car. You're going to crash that car. And that's exactly what I see in India, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in so many countries. They buy these spreaders, automatic spreaders, and they put the platform behind because I have the fabric in the lap pole. I put a hood on the top because the fabric is not opening up. I am trying to do jugaad. Don't do the bloody jugaad. Follow the procedure. There is a way to do it. Don't open the fabric from the roll. That roll. I think, Shakti, we did that for your company about 12, 13 years ago. You actually went into the supplier and asked him to send you the rolls. He charged you, I think, extra, but that was 12%, 13% fabric savings because of that. I still remember that. I saw a camel in your place when I went to that cutting room. That I will never forget. The only one place I saw a camel also as a personal animal. Okay. Anyway, look, people have horses. Okay. Sakthivel in Tirupur had camel. Okay. Savannah, move on. I'm going to get to the next one. There's a lot of things to cover.
I can manufacture my product inexpensively enough that I can attract buyers in India. For example, I know how many wealthy people live in India that make over $50,000 a year.
I would say bigger than the population of the United States.
Okay, so I'd say there's 100 million people, okay? 3 times the size of California I could sell to right now in India.
Say whatever nice thing that you can tell my friends, my people in Asia. How can they survive? It's a huge market worldwide.
All right. If I was in Asia right now, if I was in India particularly, or in China, I'd be focused on selling local. So I think that's where it's at. And really getting good at selling into the local market and developing my own relationship with Chinese customers. Then I would pivot and start exporting to American consumers. The money is going America direct or Europe direct. It's shipping from the factory to the consumer, not going through all these traditional retailers, which are going to die anyway.
So direct to consumer.
Direct to consumer from China.
Doesn't matter from where, from which country, but doesn't direct to consumer. That's your first.
Yeah, and then they're going to be my competitor, and I'm going to get into a sword fight head to head with them.
I asked Dov Charney because he just built himself second time around Los Angeles Apparel, which has become the largest apparel factory in G7. He's just been awarded that largest apparel factory in G7. That too is running in Los Angeles, where it's totally vertical. So I don't think it's the cost of labor. I think it's a lot of attitude and understanding of what your business model is and what your focus has to be. This guy is no different than all the technology startup people that I know, including Elon Musk. He sleeps and works out of the same room. He lives in his factory 24/7. That is a commitment. And culture always starts from top. Culture from top. For those who are listening and paying attention at the CEO level, I want to share something with you. I am an Indian. I have the Indian blood and Indian habits. And I also love luxuries. But one day I'm sitting down with one of the CEOs, MDs, chairman, who had a very nice large desk. We're having tea. And all of a sudden, I see that he was picking up the pencil and the pencil fell down. I saw the pencil fall down on the other side, but I didn't see him ring the bell. And there comes the peon. He says, come, pick up the pencil from there. It's right beside. That attitude needs to get changed. I am my secretary, I am my assistant, and I am way more productive than I used to be when I had the secretaries and PAs. I'm way more informed. Start utilizing technology. You have a very old saying, shit rolls downhill. Start from the top. You got to make a change. You have to change yourself first. And you have to get informed first. Next item. How many of us have seen this? in your cutting room. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Have you seen this finishing on the edges? Does that resonate? Next one. How many of us really trying to get that fabric to look so good that it doesn't matter? But try putting fabric on top of fabric, it sticks. Every time you do that, it sticks. When you balloon it, you come down, it comes down okay. But now I'm going to come in, and all I'm going to do is make it look good. So what did I do here? Arbitrarily, I cut 3-yard panels, and I sent them out for wash. And they all came back in a big bale, all mixed up. So I'm pulling out this 3 yards from there, and I'm actually pulling the thing out. I'm stretching it, and then I have these 2 people or 4 people trying to make it look good, like ironing. Look at this one. I'm doing this. One panel side is okay. Wonderful. Remember, they all were cut exactly at 3 yards. So something happened in between the wash, the shrinking, the way they came in, and the way they were spread, that I have as much as 7 inches difference between one layer to the other. 7 inches. What does that mean? And how do I know that that 3 yard is going to give me that perfect marker to fit all the pieces? Maybe I get to 2.94 only. I lose that 6 or whatever the percentage is. This needs to stop. Except for NCR and even the buying house people sitting in Delhi office, opening up a factory in Cambodia with somebody, ask them, you need to do panel wash. And the guy comes to me, I said, oh, where's the QC coming from? He said, Delhi. I said, slap him and tell him to get out of there. Do you do in Tirupur any panel wash, sir? No, it's only NCR. This is called local culture. Oh, he's doing it. Oh, he's doing it. Oh, that must be right. It's like the blind is leading the blind. We want to get this fabric to produce a perfect garment on the spec for the measurement. That is the objective. Correct, right? The second thing is we want to make sure that this garment, after sewing and cutting, we wash it. And after wash, whatever the shrinkage is, we are going to send that garment out. The way we are handling this way is a simpler way. Think of it from a denim industry. By the way, I just took this picture after this knit or the stretchy materials that we put them for 24 hours, 36 hours. People say nothing comes back except the first half a yard and the last half a yard where it will come back. But the center of that fabric, if you section it off, it parts like seed because it's trying to come back because it was spread under stretch. And if you want to cut the garment panels, they're all going to shrink. So there goes your theory of having taking the fabric, relaxing the fabric, and then mutilating it the way we spread it and getting a terrible quality of products. We can do that better. You want to take this one from here, Savannah? Our specialist up there.
Sure. I'll kind of go through the way that we eliminate panel washing, but still manage to maintain the shrinkage and the scaling that happens when fabric is treated. As Mr. Sareen explained, there is the need to, a lot of these different garments go through many different processes at different phases of production. And so rather than do the panel wash and then cut and hope that it will come back, we start from the CAD system to make sure that the shrinkage is actually engineered into whatever is going to be cut and sewn. So I'll show a quick little demonstration of this, but essentially what you'll see is that we cut a small square to be able to.
We can do that better. You want to take this one from here, Savannah? Since our specialist up there.
Sure. I'll kind of go through the way that we eliminate panel washing, but still manage to maintain the shrinkage and the scaling that happens when fabric is treated. As Mr. Sareen explained, there is the need to, a lot of these different garments go through many different processes at different phases of production. And so rather than do the panel wash and then cut and hope that it will come back, we start from the CAD system to make sure that the shrinkage is actually engineered into whatever is going to be cut and sewn. So I'll show a quick little demonstration of this, but essentially what you'll see is that we cut a small square to be able to test the washing and the treatment processes. We'll measure that to see what the difference is going to be and then apply that to the CAD pattern. And then when we get into the reportings, we're able to see before and after wash what that pattern should measure, given the different processes that we do. So one scenario that we would do in this kind of CAD method, this sort of reverse method, is to cut a 25-inch by 25-inch square. And the reason we picked 25 is because it just simply makes the math a lot easier. Typically, people will do 10-inch by 10-inch because 10 is a nice even number. But the trick with 25 is that every quarter inch, 0.25 inches, ends up being 1% shrinkage or scaling or whatever. So it makes the math a lot easier. And so the risk of human error is a lot lower. And it just makes it quick on the fly to be able to test. So we'll measure out a 25-inch by 25-inch square, do the washing and the processing, and measure it again at the end as you typically would. And in this case, what the measurements that we ended up with were 24.25 and then 23 3/4. So this was how much it shrank in the length and in the width. Well, then in my CAD pattern, I can take those values and even just using a same to scale 25-inch by 25-inch square, I can change the increment of that to get the percentage that the pattern shrank or that the fabric shrank. And one thing that's unique about the doing this in the CAD system in TukaCAD is that the proportional to 100% helps you manage the variations in when you make it larger, that whatever percentage is now a different number proportional to 100. So that helps constrain things because ultimately, as we've mentioned, you want to make sure that after all the processes are done, you're getting X% of the correct final number.
I want to interrupt this for a second.
Please.
This is extremely important for you people to understand. This is one of the biggest reasons why almost every denim company in Asia started using Tukatalks, because denim is a very difficult product to fit. Take an example of a front panel. At the top is going to shrink differently, at the hip is going to, and so on and so on. But it's the same panel, so we can't apply a global one. What Tukatalks does is something very interesting. So I'm not promoting Tukatalks here, but I'm explaining the thinking process. Writing software doesn't mean anything. Knowing what to write in the software, first you have to understand the problem. And this is our strength. We come from the industry. There's one thing called scaling, and the other one is called shrinkage adjustment. Example is, if I tell you 10-inch by 10-inch handkerchief, buyer has given you a tech pack to asking you to make a 10-inch by 10-inch handkerchief. You will make a 10-inch by 10-inch square. Correct? Pattern is made. You measure, you check the angle 90 degrees, are perfect, fine. Now it says, fold and hem it ½ inch. So you're going to add ½ inch allowance, and you're going to have even notches. So it's 11 by 11, and you know where to fold it. So now the pattern goes into the pattern room, sample is cut, is sewn, and when you do this and you measure it and you find it is not 10-inch by 10-inch, what do? You go to the pattern room to fix it. Wrong. You have to trust your data first. You made a 10-inch by 10-inch. You check the angle, you check the segment length, you check the seam allowance, you even put where to fold it. So question now is, in your sample room, are they cutting online? In your sample sewing, are you using the ½ inch folder? If you are not really engineered all the steps, there is no point fixing the same problem again and again. You need to first identify the problem and fix it. So you may find that he's using 3/4 inch folder in the hemming. And that's where the measurements are changing. Let's make it a little more complicated. The buyers, these are all process related changes. I'm still going to make my 10-inch by 10-inch block because that is what my finished garment is supposed to measure. I'm taking a square so that people can understand when you're making garment, it's very difficult. Okay. I am now asked to wash it and then send it. So I don't know. So I'm a pattern maker. I'm product development. Somebody in the test lab is going to test the fabric and tell me the shrinkage is 10% by 10% in the width and length. So I take that. Almost every CAD system makes it 10-inch to 11 inches by 11 inches. They just scaled it 10%. Even if some of the CAD companies now have learned the right method, the operator still not trained properly. They made it 11 by 11. So when you take 11-inch by 11-inch product and you washed it and the shrinkage was 10%, it's now 9.9, not 10, because it shrunk 10% of 11 inches. That, my friends, is the accuracy you require with zero tolerance in the pattern room. Product is called fit. Fashion is fit. You fit it right first time. You fix your process right first time. You will thrive. All your deficiencies are in the product development and the cutting room. Sewing room means absolute shit. You can give me the best possible machines, the best possible things and so on. It's 17% of my total cost. Even 10% saving of that is only less than 2% of the total thing. Now that's not slowing me down. Slowing me down is the processes before. I did not get approval. I had to fly the goods. I had to send the shipment by air. All that is reasons not in the sewing room. It's way before that. Go ahead, Savannah. I did not mean to rudely interrupt you, but I get excited because I want to know where my problem is, then I can solve it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point to make. And that's why I love having these SOPs that are ultimately rooted in technology, because it makes it so much easier to identify where the problem comes from. because if you know that the computer's not going to mess up making a 10-inch by 10-inch square, then you can figure out where the human error is coming in. And it just makes, there's one last thing you have to identify. Whoops, let's go back. Excuse me. So we've got our shrinkage values that we're now going to apply to the pattern. So I'm able to just give my percentage values based on the testing that was done on this 25-inch by 25-inch square. So those values are, they're put in for all the rest of the pattern pieces. And we can even scale the grading, and then well, I don't know if you were able to notice, but now you can actually see from the measurement chart, even if you couldn't see it visually, when we isolate we add in the shrinkage values to the measurement chart so that there is a difference between the before wash and after wash measurement. Meaning after something has been initially cut and sewn, we can take measurements before any processing is done. And then after the garment's been washed and those processes have been applied, it should come back to the finished spec. So let me see if I can zoom in there. So that's more clear.
I think it's better. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to read here, but if you even just look at the length measurement there at the top for the extra small, before wash, when I measure that out, it should be 23.7 inches. But then after I do my wash processes, the final measurement should be 23. So your after wash measurements should always be whatever the given spec is. And then we're adding on top of or taking away from that finished spec based on the different processes that we're doing. So again, this is a great way to check in during the different levels of production to make sure that things are coming out as expected at the point you expect them to. I hope that.
I just want to mention something.
Yeah.
Guys and girls, this screen that you are seeing, this data is generated by the CAD system.
Yes.
It's
yes,
not a spec sheet. This is telling you before you even cut and sew a garment that what is the finished measurement, and they must tally with what customer wanted. That is after wash measurements.
Right.
If you are not measuring, fix the pattern, fix the grading, because you can verify on the CAD before you cut even one garment. Then after done the testing, is telling you for each size before wash what should be. So as Savannah said, the garment is sewn, cut and sewn. QC should check randomly few garments of each size to make sure they are measuring what before wash measurement says. This up there on the side says Excel. What that means is this report can be generated in Excel and can be handed over that Excel sheet to the QC on the floor, who could be actually walking with this, because this is the real data. And after this thing is washed, the other copy of the report is with the other QC who checks what is the measurement of the garment now. If they are not measuring to what after wash measurement is, you see that value up there, grain side direction 3%, perpendicular 5%. That value that I did as a pattern maker was given to me by somebody who washed it. So maybe you're testing the wash one way and you're doing the production wash another way. You need to first identify where the problem is so you can fix it.
Right.
These are the little things that help you. But once you get this thing going right, after that, it's designed for dummies to be able to follow the procedure and get going. But there's another scenario. I think you were showing me something on the other scenario.
Yeah. So this scenario that we just talked about is pretty straightforward for something simple like a basic t-shirt. But then of course there's different garments that are more complicated that have more that have different tension points. You've mentioned denim, that's a great example, but even something like, if you add tape on a shoulder seam, that can affect how it will scale and shrink during wash processes. So the other option is actually instead of doing the testing on a square, you actually go through the process of making the garment. So you would actually cut out the garment at the 0, so with no scaling and shrinkage, just with your seam allowance. You go through the process of cutting and sewing and doing all of the wash processes. And then you measure the differences at your key points of measure. So after you take away the seam allowance, you're looking now at what the garment measurement should be before washing should be your finished specification, because we cut this at the 0 pattern. But then after wash, you measure it again to see what the difference is at these key points of measure. So you might have a much bigger difference at the waist or the chest than you might at the bottom, depending on, if you've got, the ribbing or something like that. So that's how we find the values. It's just another way of finding the values, is you measure the actual garment before and after wash, and then you go back and you adjust not the entire pattern, but just those specific points of measure to accommodate for the scaling and the shrinking. So in this case, the length, we went and added a 1/4 inch. In the chest, we can add a different value. Here we're adding 1/2 inch, and that's applied proportionately between the front and back. But at the waist, we're doing 1/2 inch again. But we can really fine tune this out. On the bottom, we're not adding the same increment, because we found that the measurement difference there was not the same. So this is another way to really fine tune, and this is especially useful for.
Can you go on this a little bit so that you can explain? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, just go a little bit more. A little bit more zoom. I'm old. I can't see very well.
We're
Okay. So this is a very good example by automating to make sure. So you, just to recap, you took the garment, you made a 0 as the finished garment specification. So you cut and sewn the garment from raw material without any wash. Once the garment is verified that it measures exactly what the finished measurement should be, you then washed it the way you were going to production wash it, right? And then you measured the garment at each point of measure and found out what the real measurements are or the difference is. And then you added that to each measurement to elongate or widen the garment or the pattern to compensate so it comes back the same amount after washing. Correct?
That's correct.
So if you apply that to all the sizes, you can now take the raw material straight from the rolls, spread it, put that pattern with the shrinkage adjusted pattern with the marker, cut it, sew it, and then send it for wash, and they should come back exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah. So again, like we keep saying, it's really about identifying where the problem comes from. And as you mentioned, I think the knee-jerk reaction when the specs are coming out wrong at the end is to blame the pattern maker for not doing their job correctly. But as we've discussed, there's so many places where there's so many variables that go in. That when you've got technology in certain places, it makes it a lot easier to identify where those problems come from, because you can control for your pattern being made to the right specifications. So then it basically just helps you zero in on where you're really having breakdowns. And then you don't have to waste so much time making solutions to problems that shouldn't have existed in the first place.
Shakti, in my previous life, I used to do consulting, a lot of consulting, setting up factories all over the world. And my first question to a new client used to be, sir, so tell me what's your biggest problem? And this is back in early 80s, okay? So 99% of the time people will say, well, you know, we have a very big quality problem. Okay, what's your big quality problem? We got 3% seconds. Right away, I knew this guy has no idea what his problem is. He just identified the end result. The end result is he's got 3% seconds. Why are they seconds? Is it the machines leaking oil? Is it the floor which is dirty? Is it the cutting which is bad? What is it? If I know that, I can fix it. So the moral of the story here is, first is to identify the cause. That is why the doctors make you go through urine test, blood test, X-ray, MRI, till they find out why. You can't just say, I have a headache, I have a pain. Why? When? First, learn to identify the problems. Believe it or not, you will have solutions staring at you if you learn how to identify the problem. You don't need a consultant. Necessity is the mother of invention. Why do you have to have a kick in the ass to be able to move? This is where Sri Lankans are way ahead because they are always proactive. What strength do they have? They have no mills. They have no in a lot of areas, except their attitude is phenomenal. They all want to learn and they all want to excel. Even God, who has given everybody 5 of these indriya, one of them goes away, the other 4 takes over to compensate. A blind person can hear much better. Why do we have to become blind to be able to hear better? Why can't we just let all of them go? Go to the next. I get excited, I get motivated, I get little disheartened. All right, this is my set. Okay, I developed this one for whether it's doing manual spreading or computerized spreading or whatever. But the idea behind this thing is to understand all the variables in spreading and how do you calculate. So there are 2 lessons that I want to talk about here. Doesn't matter what products you make. If you're in the cut and sew business, we call cut and sew business. We don't call it I'm a bra maker. We don't call it a panty maker. We don't say I'm a cut and sew business. These are the 3 things we do over there in all apparel businesses. We lay the fabric. We're not laying dresses. We're not laying panties or t-shirts. We're laying fabrics. We lay the number of layers, the length of marker based on the product, based on certain other factors, but we lay fabric. So the efficiency has to come in. How many yards can I spread? That is my measure. That's it. Not how many garments. How many yards can I spread in a day? It just converts that into whatever garments we are going to do. And then, hey, I have 1,000 yards to spread, but my roll size is 50 yards average. And I take 1 minute to change the roll. That means I have 20 rolls. So I can plug in all the yellow ones. I can plug in variables. And I can very quickly figure out what is going to be my time factor. So if it is my number of rolls is 20 because 50 yards or 1,000 yards divided by 50 is 20 rolls. 1 minute, it will take 20 minutes for the roll time. For the total time that it's going to take me is 20 minutes, which is guaranteed. That is 20 minutes. per 1,000 yards. Okay. Then I'm going to have end loss of 4 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 2 centimeter on each side. So depending on the number of layers I put in, I'm going to have that loss, the fabric loss. Can you go to the other side of this? So if my lay length is 5 meter long, I'm going to have to do 200 layers for the 1,000 yards. Yes? And 200 layers at 2 centimeters is going to be 8 meters of loss, fabric loss. My roll changing time is 20 minutes. If I'm working at 40% efficiency on a machine, I will take 29.7 minutes. So my total time will be 29.7 plus 20. That's my total time taken. I know how to calculate that very quickly. I can plan my tables, my people. If I now have a marker longer, as I go, can you go down a little bit, please? 20-yard long marker. 1,000 yards, 20 yards long, I only have to do 50 layers. But my end loss is 6 meters saved in the 1,000 yards. Do you know how much money is that in one lay?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Right. My time for roll change time is still going to be 20 minutes. So why does it go from 29.7 at still 40% to 24.8? Simple. This is my length. Whatever my length is, this is my length of the marker. I'm going to start from here, 0. I'm going to accelerate for half a yard or 3/4 of a yard, and then going to run full throttle, and then come about 3/4 of a yard before the end, and I'm going to decelerate. So my acceleration 3/4 yard, deceleration 3/4 yard stays standard for every layer. It is the middle where I get the full efficiency of the machine or the people or whatever. So I need to have as much middle possible where I can amortize the slowdown time and the slowdown time and gain. That's where I pick up my efficiency. I'm still working on 40%. I haven't changed that, but my time value changes. Is everybody getting clear on this one?
Yeah,
I have it for different fabrics, for different. So first thing I need to know is my data. If I don't know my data, I can't plan it. First thing, before you do anything, start making a change. Invest $1,500 into the push trolley. I have sold, and I'll tell you something, Sakthivel, you're going to laugh at this one. I've been in this part of the world for a very long time, and I've seen for more than 50 years these trolleys. I was 14 years old when I came first time to America with my father, who was in the export business. This is 1964. And I went to the factories, and I saw the saddest state of the factories, but they were still using these trolleys at that time. I still remember that. So this is not something that is new. Every time I would come to India about 10 years ago, I would talk to the machinery dealers. Now, why don't you introduce these trolleys? He says, sir, there is no margin on that one. It's like 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,500. Who is going to import and stock and this? I said, but they'll help the industry. He says, sir, they want to buy the automatic spreader. So these guys are more interested in selling you automatic spreaders at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and you don't even utilize 10% of the capabilities. You still have 2, 3, 4 people working on the same automatic spreaders, and you're getting no benefit of that. You don't even get the electricity cost out, let alone getting the productivity. Okay, you give me an automatic spreader, and I show you here. I'm doing 30, 35 yards a minute. I have long markers. I'm doing 14 to 16 to 18 yards manually per minute by pushing trolley. I have nobody forcing, nobody pushing. I am doing it myself with a stick, fixing it. I'm not trying to make it look good. If I have stretch in the fabric, I'll allow a little extra. It's going to come down. It's not something that I'm doing a rocket science. Not because white people are here spreading because it's America. Over here also immigrants, whether it's Mexicans or Vietnamese or Chinese or whoever, but they are immigrants, uneducated people who are in the garment industry. And that phenomena is everywhere. I just have to pay them more because that's what the law is. Therefore, I have to find ways to get maximum productivity for my dollar. We don't have that pressure, and we need to have that pressure because we are losing, beside labor dollars, we are losing the process itself is taking away my fabric. Okay, enough said on that fabric thing. I want to share a case study. There's a company here called Tailgate, and there are two Sri Lankan companies who are now using this for the last 3 years, where they'll make blank garments and put it up there. This company is digital printers. They can do any service for a little added value, but you have a less markdown and a quick delivery. But there are a lot of self-wear brands who buy blank t-shirts. I don't know how many of you are doing t-shirts, but just my clients only in Los Angeles are doing 5.5 million t-shirts per day, just the blank t-shirts. They sell to the second tier people who add value by putting graphics or buying or doing something or the other, or promotional corporate, this, that, and so on. And then they sell from $3 to $30 a t-shirt. Okay. This company does that, 100,000 t-shirts a day. They stock 7 to 10 million t-shirts at any given time. That's not theirs. Their customers keep those stock. Okay? They send the order, and this customer will open up. They don't do any blank t-shirts with the strike-offs and so on. They open blank 3D garment. They put the graphic on it. They'll make a 3D sample, show the positioning of the artwork, send that back to the customer. The customer looks at that, changes or approves or whatever, but the finalizing of the sample is done digitally within hours. So sample making cost goes away. If that goes away, both parties win. Remember, if your cost is up, your buyer has to pay that somehow or the other. These are their clients, whether it's Disney or licensees of anything, and they have all kinds of treatments they do here within the same place. This is right here in Los Angeles. To do 100,000 t-shirts per day. We have this fallacy that we have to do panel and do the printing on the panel and then come back, and this panel has shrunk differently because it went through the heat, this one did. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Whoever told you guys, you got to tell them to take their walking papers, go home, because they are destroying you. But you know what? They are destroying you because you yourself don't know what is the best way of doing it. You can't stand up and say, let me show you how to do it right. And that's what I'm trying to do here today. I'm trying to educate my friends, and I'm trying to show them there is a simpler, easier way to hold your ear rather than going back all the way like this. It's not that difficult in the industry. This is how all the t-shirts are finished for the real brands out of here in Los Angeles at those prices, and everybody's still making money. Those of you who are still trying to get the fighting of 10 cents and 50 cents, those retailers, Man, I tell you, they themselves have no idea. A lot of them who have gone under, it took, I don't know why so long. For the last 4 years, I've been saying that by 2023, 40% of the garments will go away. Everybody will be producing 40% less garments around the world. It wasn't me with the global signals coming in. I could see the financial statements and the trends in the industry of the large retailers 14 quarters in a row. If they're not making money, 15, 16, 17, 18 quarter is not going to become a miracle. Once that slide starts, it's going to COVID just help them go under very quickly. There are a lot of changes being made, but this is not the panel for that. Okay. Go ahead, next one. I want to show this. Eventually, when you are going to learn the right processes, then you're going to start working on, hey, there is a way to do it without having to have the operators. Or if the operator is there, they're going to stand there and they are going to only look for defects. I have come up with that technology where the system will detect defects, have operator, the artificial intelligence, make a decision what to do with that, even check the width of the marker and the width of the fabric automatically, and stop the machine if the width is too wide in the fabric and versus the marker is narrow. But that technology and all that, I don't want to sell you. I want to show you how first you go from crawling to walking and then to running. We will get to the automation. But go with the first steps of going in there. Most of us are vendors who are sitting here. But you know what? We are not taking the advantage of our experience. We are not taking the advantage of our strength. We know how to design. All inventions, all innovations happen in the factories, and we are factory owners. I am going to share a video with you as my last video. No, then there is 2 videos I want to share. Okay, I'm sorry. This is a video of that Pakistani company owner who was talking to somebody in Europe, and one of my guys took the video, and he was telling that to a Spanish customer in a show. Okay, go ahead, play it.
When Mr. Dam came to us and he saw what we were doing, how we were doing, he opened our eyes to what we were doing wrong. Forget system, what you could do without system and what was wrong. So that was something, and he went on the floor and he showed us how to do it. And you see, there's always resistance. People doing, no, this you can't do it this way. That resistance was finished because he was there on the floor and he said, you can do it. And he was, with so much confidence, he was there. He said, do it this way. You're putting so much extra margin, you're wasting everything. Do it this way. I'm here, not the machine. And you see that resistance was gone. Then we manually, without having purchasing system, improved so much. Just because of his guidance, then we got the system. We could see, because I was involved, I could see the difference between what we were doing before, what the system was able to do for us, and now what's the option that Tukatalks gave us. It's a hell of a difference. Initially, just because of his training, I think we saved about 7% of our conversion planning. 7% manual, no system. Then we got the system, we saved about 5-6% over there. Then again, we got the cut plan. When we got the cut plan, the layer planning, we had saved another 3%. So our consumption for a product that we were doing, about 70 to 80% of our product was teas, right? The consumption was reduced by about anywhere 12 to 14% per garment. Tukatalks software, the planning is done by cut plan. You see, previously you used to just make out one mark and you planned out all your production and you had to. But now the planning is done by cut planner. It lays out, you plan out the fabric that you require and you only plan the fabric that you're going to need It's a level difference in what we were doing before. You can't imagine that we will be surviving if we had not eliminated that much waste that we were producing. So, in anything that Tuka has given us, they've been there, they've backed it up with training, the people are there, they show it to you. It's just saying that it is a possibility. They do it. And the support that they have, it's amazing. You don't have that support. We have the system from assist. The support was non-existent because they can't back it up. But Mr. Ram has got a team that backs it up. Whatever he's saying, you know there's a person behind it, and anything that he says. You see people in marketing tend to say things and they say things that are a little over. But anything and everything that Mr. Ram has said, he's backed it up and it has actually been proven true. So that's why the relationship, the trust level is very different with Mr. Ram. We trust his decision, his recommendation blindly. Because we have never found him to be wrong in any way, in any advice. Our cutting room has totally changed. What it was before, it is so much different now. So few people being able to do so much. I think we had what we were doing with about 100 people. Now we are doing with 22, 23 people. But actually, what we were doing 100 people was less. Now with 22 people, we're doing more. So you want to equate quantity to same quantity, then I think we'll be doing about 12, 13, 14 people. And still there are reasons we know we can eliminate. That's a cultural issue. According to him, we should be less. But you see, we are a little slow that we don't do a lot of drastic things, drastic cutting.
He said, when I went there and I saw, and this is the Levi's supplier, the largest one, okay? To the extent that one of my best friends in the industry, Hydermani, who is my largest customer in the world with over 500 systems and everything that we make, who were big suppliers to Levi's, lost a $20 million account overnight to these people because these people could bid on things they couldn't. They were using assist system, they were using a EMA cutter, Morgan spreaders, this, that, and so on. Most of the shit was not working, okay? I liked them a lot because they were working with another friend of ours who was my first customer in Pakistan. When I went there and I saw this, it was just a consulting job. It was nothing to do with selling. I walked in, I showed them how to do it right. There was a lot of fight. I stood there, I made them do it, and I saved them 7% fabric without selling a system or putting a system with their technology. And that's what he's talking about, that without buying anything, with our technical know-how, we were able to save them 7% fabric. So he went in and bought the system from us. And he's found another 5% savings came in. And then he bought another system from us, which is the cut planning MRP system that now decides how much fabric you should buy, how should you allocate, and how should you save. All that planning is done through automation, and that system saved him another 3% fabric. He had between 12 to 14% fabric saving, and all of a sudden, he was bidding on the contracts that he never had a chance to even bid because that was the biggest cost of fabric saving. The third thing was the cutter. Now, I had nothing to do. I liked them. They were really nice. They speak same language. I'm not eating meat. His mother would cook special meals for me. The food would come from home, even if I'm not there. So if I'm just going there for lunch and I'm working with another client in Lahore, I walked into their cutting room and I saw how terrible their cutters were running. So I offered from my own pocket to send my engineer from America for 3 weeks and have their EMA cutter run and started producing. They became very good friends. And next thing you know is they said, can you engineer our new cutting room? Bottom line, he had 3 cutters from us. Where he had 120 people, he's now got 11 people cutting 30,000 more garments per day. And they did listen to everything. No ticketing, cut, take it off, put it on trolleys straight into the sewing room. And a lot of fabric saving, a lot of people saving, a lot of time saving. This is something that I can't buy it. They have to be able to say it behind my back. And the only way it's going to come out is not because I sold them something cheap or whatever price difference. It's because I gave it to them a solution that really was measurable results. Okay. So the last video, I don't know if that will have the sound problem. To just bypass this one and go to the next one, please. I want to share this thing with you because this is important. Cut the sound out, please. I was asked in this factory, which is making mosquito nets. They are the largest mosquito net makers today. They are totally vertical. They don't work for a brand or a retailer. The owner is driven. This is on 100-acre land, one factory, where from A to Z, everything is done. They were doing manual spreading, short markers. Once the marker is made, you need to cut basically squares and rectangles to be able to cut. They asked me to set it up. These are the rolls they finished. And then we put the spreaders. There are 48 spreaders on 48 long tables with 17 people working in the entire cutting room. Now that, my friend, is an engineered cutting room. And there is no brand or retailer or QC putting the finger up the owner's ass, telling them how to do it. Okay? You want your ass saved? You've got to stand up to all these idiots who are driving you to bankruptcies and adding zero value, but asking you to drop prices further. Have a good day.
Ram, can you take some question, please, with the openness for
Absolutely.
Abhinandan, you can ask people to ask question. Abhinandan.
Right, sir. Good morning, Mr. Agrawal. You can ask the question, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for that presentation. It was very, very eye-opening. So we had one question. We deal with a lot of check fabrics in, especially in Madras, Chennai, and Bangalore area. So on behalf of the exporters here, we'd like to understand a little more of how this cutting room automation can be used for cutting of checks as well as stripe fabric.
Actually, I was going to have a segment on stripe matching and plaid matching. It really is a science, but don't expect 5,000 yards per person coming in on stripe matching. But at the same time, our objective is that we need to match, and we need to match with maximum capabilities of people with the least amount of fabric wastage. And we want to handle it only once. We don't want to cut, block it, and then re-pin it, and then re-block it, and then recut it. Those things are not important. So I remember, as a matter of fact, first of all, you have to understand the matching. There are many parameters in the matching. Some brands will tell you, I want you to match two fronts to make sure they're absolutely of the same, right? But I don't care about the sides. Some have what we call match front to front and side to side seam also. And then some have the sleeve to match, sleeve cap to match with the front and back. We call 5-star matching with the collar, or the pocket has to match certain things and so on. So really depending upon, first thing is, what are the requirements of matching? Second thing is, what is the fabric? Is the fabric where I have exact repeat, or am I getting a slip on the repeat? Let's say it's a 4-inch repeat. Next repeat is coming up 4 and a 16. The next one is coming 4 and a 8. Next one is coming. So I know it's an increment of a 16th of an inch. I will build that in my pattern because I'm still going to match, but my repeat is not going to be 4 inch by 4 inch. And my repeat is now only is in the X or in the X and Y also. You're in Bangalore?
He's in
Chennai.
Chennai.
In Chennai.
Chennai.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I have several customers in Bangalore, including I think Bangalore Shirt Company or BSL or whatever. Vijay Agarwal or some used to have that company. There's Epic in Bangladesh and Ethiopia who's doing a lot of flat shirts. We have 7 or 8 good ones. In Sri Lanka, we have quite a few of them. There is no real answer without understanding what are the requirements. But let's start with a very simple one, front to front match. Okay. So I'm going to use this as an example. I have the front to front matching, right? But my problem is this stripe goes sometimes up and down and this goes up and down. But I want to match it here. So I marry the 2 pieces, the 2 fronts, marry them. So I move them together. So long as this going down this way, this going down doesn't make a difference. So long as this is coming straight right here, right? And the center of that is the one that I need to cut. But I'm not going to just sit down and cut. So what people are doing, they cut 1/2 of that and then block the big one to match that by hand by scissors, right?
Yeah.
That's how Indians do that. In 1998, I changed that because that can be done with the automatic cutter, where we make a slit in the middle, and at the top we leave an 1/8 of an inch, and at the bottom we leave an 1/8 of an inch. So this is already matched pair. This is already cut in the middle. At the operator level, I snip it, and I have a matched garment. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no one way. I have a guy who's a vice president of engineering. His name is Ganeshan. He's working out of Bangalore. Please email me or Shakti knows. We have about 150 people in India. We'll be more than happy to have that person come and show you. Believe it or not, that young man from Bangalore is respected more in Americas and Europe and Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh. He takes global, but in India they call him, he's one of our Indians. Shame on us. Shame on us. We don't respect our own people. We are the wisest people, smartest people when we go out. When I go to Europe, in Italy, they say, oh, you're Indian. You're Indian, so fit. The best, the best, the best. That is the respect we have as Indians. Let's keep it. I'm very proud. I'm very proud to be Indian. That is my Janam Bhumi. This is my Karam Bhumi. My Janam Bhumi is India. I got my basic education there. I owe a lot to that country.
Ajay, we'll give the email address of Ram Sareen, then we can correspond with him now.
Yes.
Absolutely. I will do that. And maybe we can, if possible, we may request you for another seminar with your team over here for the other exporters in Chennai also to just understand once he's here. But
Ajay, I don't want to say now, but still, because AEPC is doing at free of cost, otherwise he charges heavily. If I know him. But with my friendship, he has agreed to do it. Okay, the next question, please, Mr. Abhilandan.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Sakthivel Armugam is in the room, sir. Mr. Sakthivel, you can ask the question, please.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking for that trolley. What you are talking about, the manual trolley, lane trolley. I just want to have some information on that. If you can share it through your mail ID.
Actually, it's interesting because my background is mechanical engineering. So what I did was 10 years ago, I developed the exact copy, but the best possible stainless steel material and the aluminum so that it can run 50 years without any problems. It's a piece of metal, okay? But I also made it flexible so that I can have a 44-inch to 72-inch fabric that can go onto the same trolley. And we built it for about $1,500 retail. And I remember 10 years ago showing it at the exhibition where we put it on the table, this trolley, and behind that was a TV showing how people are using it. You will not believe I sold 58 of those machines on the show. People were begging me 50,000 rupees bulk deposit. Please have mine. We have sold hundreds of these in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. I have shipped it to Pakistan from India, these ones. There's no money in this shit for me, okay? But you know what? Who cares? But sad thing is, and I gotta tell you this thing, sad thing is, the owners, some of them, chal yaar ek bhej do mere ko, ek bhej do. And then I go there, 2 months later, I find that thing is sitting in the stock room because the cutting room manager doesn't want to make that happen because his job is in danger. This is very sad. When you have operators telling you how they want to run the business, you have a problem. Okay. You can't have a back that.
Just give the.
Our India office has. You can source it any which way you want. I mean, if you want, we can have our India office arrange that. It's like $1,200 to $1,500. Okay, and we do the installation, we do the training, and so on. And I guarantee you, my friend, one person in Bangladesh, 16 people were spreading on nets. One machine replaced 15 people. These guys, they talk about it all the time.
Sendil, we can give the email ID. You can contact and get it. Yeah. The next person, please.
Thank you.
Rajkumar Sharkati knows our president Umesh. Please contact him now, and he will take care of it.
Okay, good. Who is the next person, Abhinandan?
Yeah, sir. Representative from MAF Clothing Private Limited is in the room, sir. Yeah. You can ask a question, please.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon to everyone, and thanks to AEPC and Mr. Sareen for arranging amazing meeting with us.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir. Sir,
please ask your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, it's basically we have gone through the presentation what you have shown. See, a MAF clothing is running with multiple products like kids, tops, bottoms, women's, jackets and waistcoats. There is no restriction for the scope of product. Like we do all kind of multiple fabrics and products. Such case, how these spreader and everything can be used? How is it compatible for our kind of product? And how can I reduce the manpower? Increase the product.
As I was saying, spreading and cutting is the only time when you don't have any product specific. You are laying yards. And in the cutting inches, perimeter inches, whatever the shape is. So if you have 100 layers, 100 of those pieces come out. 50 layers, 50 of those pieces come out. Some pieces are bigger because it's a dress. Some people are smaller because it's a short. Some people are longer because it's a pant. But it's nothing to do with products. It is cutting the perimeter inches, which gives you the products. Even in sewing, if you do it right, about 75 to 80% of the products are same operations. A side seam of a pant, of a short, of a shirt, of a dress is a side seam. It is sewing machine relevant. Am I using single needle? Am I using single surgeon? Am I using surgeon only? What am I using? It's only in 80% of the product done, then you start defining, this looks like this product. The operators don't know. So your thinking process has to be, what is it that customer wants? And so I live in Los Angeles. This is the mecca of contractors. We have contractors for every little thing. We have people who design patterns for you, people who do grading and marking for you for money, people who do spreading and cutting for you, people who do sewing for you, washing for you, finishing for you, shipping for you, billing for you. You have an idea, you have your money, get started very quickly. That is the beauty. But going in, you have 25 cents a government for spreading and cutting, you know it. And that cutting service is going to cut, whether they cut for 25 cents or another government for 65 cents, whatever. The point is, they are a cutting service. So you are a vendor. You will do whatever comes in your way. Whatever order comes in, you have to be totally versatile. That's what the whole thing is about. Okay? Does that answer?
Yeah. Sir, representative from CMV Global Clothing. Yeah. Please ask the question, please. CMV Global.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Representative from CMV Global Clothing. Actually, we're having a doubt regarding the shrinkage allowance you are adding, shrinkage value you are adding. Is it possible for adding for all colors, like multicolors? Because you were saying about the single colors, but it is possible for adding for all colors. How we can do that one? Because per style we're having a multicolors.
Okay.
So, but we are checking for the only one color and then we are adding. So, can you explain me?
Yeah, absolutely. The system doesn't know the color.
Absolutely. The system doesn't know the color.
It's only you are telling what percentage do you want to add in the shrinkage. So first thing is that you test that in black, my shrinkage is this. Yellow, blue, and so on. Now, if you feel that the shrinkage is very little variation, then you can average it out and say this apply globally for all colors. But these are the decisions that you make based on the data. I'm going to ask you a very stupid question, okay? You're a young man. Have you ever made a mistake? Have you ever made a mistake? Have you ever made a bad decision? Yes? So when you were making that decision, was that your intent? Let's make a bad decision today. No. You made the best decision at that time with the information you had. It is only when the new information came in, you say, oh my God, that was a bad decision. So the key here is the information. If you have the right information, you will make the right decision. Try to authenticate the information and the quality of the information. Don't listen to fake news, okay?
Next, please. Abhinandan, make it last two questions. Then they can send emails.
Sir, no further questions, sir.
Wonderful. It is 11:21 p.m. Before the date changes to same date as yours, I want to keep it 8th of December for me, while you still enjoy the 9th of December. You know, this is the great thing about India. You're always ahead of us. Always ahead of us. I want you guys, whoever is listening, to write down this, or maybe you can, Shakti, you can have somebody from AEPC send a link called Tukatalks. Tukatalks is a platform that I started a year and a half ago by bringing in people who are way more experienced than I am, way more educated than I am, people who have had way more chances and successes and so that I have in the garment industry, and ask them only one question: what is it that you would like to tell in your experience? So it's a conversation This is not a platform to promote a product or a service or anything. This is literally a conversation between two experienced people taking one subject at a time. And I tell you something, you watch some of these and you'll say, how did we know before COVID? Some of my guests will astonish you with the information that they were talking about a year and a half ago. This is mind-boggling. The best possible denim designers, the first CEO of the premium denim, the best dress company people, the best marking, grading, and service providers, the micro factory. These are the people who are here. Enjoy the talk. When you talked to me other day, Shakti, about a joint venture, I brought in a guy whose name is Mark Dessar. Please do a little bit of Google search on Mark Dessar. An amazing, amazing, amazing character, and also a proud Indian who was director at Ralph Lauren. He was at Levi's. He was a big, big, big guy at Gap, to the extent that he represented Gap in Washington, and then he ended up working for Bill Clinton and for the U.S. Department for setting up Haiti's Park, setting up the whole thing. Right now, he's working on Africa, setting up for the U.S. aid and so on. I brought him on for 2 hours of conversation. Listen to him. What the world perspective that he has about the fashion industry, I think, is most valuable information that money can't buy. That is Tukatalks. So go there, follow that, and we'll be more than happy to help you any which way you like. Okay?
Yes, Ram. We will send this link to all our participants who are participated today. Abhinandan, the last question, please allow somebody now, then we can finish it's already 11:30 there.
Yeah. So there is no further questions and no one raised the hand, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Ram, it's a real pleasure to have you and a very useful and fruitful webinar. And you have taken so much of time and energy to do this. And I should thank Savannah. She is really, it's 11:30 for you there, and still you are look so fresh and energetic. So it's all the leadership of Ram Sareel, I hope. Ram will keep in touch, and on behalf of our AEPC, on behalf of the Indian exporters, I really thank you and appreciate you for all your gesture to show to us. Thanks a lot. And thank all for participating today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. See you.